Good morning. I'm Susan Meredith. This is the morning edition, and if you've been watching the ads on late television last night, you know that I have a very special guest and a special 2-hour show today. Ron Wyatt is a man who believes he has discovered the Ark and various other scriptural artifacts, and some of the major things in the Bible, the major events. He believes that he is the one person who was designated to discover these things. And are you skeptical? Do you believe? Do you know Jesus? Do you know the Bible? Do you know the stories? Well, he's going to tell us something about those things here today. My guest for this special 2-hour morning edition is Ron Wyatt, and Ron is the man that believes that he has discovered Noah's Ark, the bones of the giants that we're going to talk about later, Sodom and Gomorrah, the pyramid building machine, the Red Sea crossing site, the real Mount Sinai, the crucifixion site, and the Ark of the Covenant itself. The Ark, of course, being different than Noah's Ark, which is what most people think of you as having discovered, and as a matter of fact, a lot of people believe that, including Turkey. Is that right?
That's correct.
The Turkish government?
Yes. Appreciate your invitation to come spend some time with you, Susan.
Oh, well, it's exciting for me. I met you a long time ago, 8 years ago.
Yes.
And I had the most fascinating time just sitting and listening and looking at your films. And how did this all begin?
I guess probably when I was about 15, somebody gave me a book. It was called God's Graves and Scholars, written by Saram, and it had to do with the excavation of Ur of the Chaldees, which of course is the city that Abraham migrated from when he went into Canaan. And I just became fascinated with archaeology and ancient history, and so I've been reading everything I could get my hands on ever since that had to do with archaeology and ancient history. And then in 1977 I started making field trips to try to locate some of these things and document them.
Okay, we're going to get into the Ark just a little bit right now, because I want to get into some of these other things first, and
okay.
we'll kind of get to Noah's Ark later. I want to show you first. Ron has been on many television shows. He has written a book called Discovered, Noah's Ark. And when did you actually see it the first time?
Let's see, it was August 26, 1977.
1977.
Yes.
Did it look like an ark to you then?
Well, it looked like a boat. A lot of people nowadays, due to our changing lifestyle, haven't seen a boat. But when I was a kid, they were fairly common. Mm-hmm. People did a lot of fishing. And so anyway, a lot of times after a storm, when the river would come up and all, these boats were tied off to trees and whatnot so they wouldn't get swept down the river in the flood, the little local flood. Mm-hmm. But they would fill with water. And so when you saw these boats, there would just be the upper edge of the gun walls or the hull protruding above the water. And so out in eastern Turkey at 6,300 feet up on this mountain sat this boat that just the upper edge of the hull was sticking above the dirt. Okay. And of course a big bulge in the middle that showed there's a little more to it than there would be to a simple rowboat.
Okay, you had a lot of people refute that that idea of yours that was a boat up there on the mountain for a while. And
well, Susan, there was a very talented artist that painted a barge-shaped structure into a photograph of Mount Ararat. And the whole idea of a barge shape got a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. There was a movie, In Search of Noah's Ark, and in there they had a model and they built a barge-shaped object, and then they put a little barge-shaped stick in a wave tank to show the stability. Now, I'm a critical individual, skeptical, and I hope your audience is. I'm sure many of them are. And I'll say right up front, if somebody told me they had found all this stuff, I wouldn't believe it for a second.
Okay.
And so what we have done is documented all of it very carefully so that people can see it for themselves. And anyway, in this movie, they supposedly demonstrated the stability of a barge shape in a rough sea. They edited this thing, and you could tell within seconds it had turned over and gotten entirely wet. And so they showed two segments, fractions of seconds, and in the second one it was wet. It had not been as stable as they would like us to believe. So anyway, a barge shape in a rough sea where there's torque, it will not survive. The oil companies attempted to use barges to transfer oil from one place to the other, and it just did not work. So they are not as stable as the story implied back in those days.
Now we're going to show a clip here in a minute, and right now I know this comes in 3 sections. Can you get a picture of the model that's in front of us? This is actually to scale. It isn't a scale model, but it is to scale. And this is what, by all accounts, evidently everybody who knows anything about the Ark believes it looked like this.
That's right. Those that are familiar with our research. See, in archaeological investigation, for example, we can measure the depth of what's left out there from end to end, and you can tell where the upper decks began and ended. Now, due to erosion over the 4,700 years since it came to ground up there, you can't be precise, but you can be very close. And so this gives us the fact that it had 3 decks or 3 floors, and then from side to side you get the same picture. And so we know that this is the shape, and the inside, which we'll show I guess a little later, is based on subsurface radar scan, which gives you the ability to look through the earth just like a doctor does through a fluoroscope to see our broken bones if we should need his assistance in that area. So it's reconstructed from what the data shows the boat to have looked like.
Okay, now this is not the way you saw it, though, and we want to show you the way he did see it. Here is a video clip right now, and we'll show you what Ron saw on the mountain.
On June 20th, 1987, after 10 years of intense research, the Turkish government announced to the world the discovery of Noah's Ark and the dedication of it and the surrounding area as a national park. In 1977, Ron Wyatt made his first trip to this area after seeing this satellite photo in Life magazine. It was during this first trip that Ron found numerous huge drogue-style anchor stones, all the same approximate size as the one here. These were all in a direct alignment with the boat-shaped object, evidencing their being cut loose or dropped as the Ark entered the area of its final rest. These all bear ancient iconographic inscriptions of the 8 survivors of the flood. In December of 1978, an earthquake in this highly remote area dropped the soil from around the formation, allowing Ron to see for the first time the rib timbers and deck support timbers visibly exposed on the sides. A large crack was also formed along the entire length of the object, and he was able to measure the depth and take samples for analysis. The analyses showed a very high organic carbon content consistent with ancient wood. Later metal detection surveys and subsurface interface radar showed an incredible man-made structure encapsulated within the formation. Keels and keelsons, bulkheads, decks, and even partitions between the cages became visible through these scientific devices. The Turkish government has completed a beautiful visitor center just above the Ark, so that visitors of every faith from all nations can visit and see the Ark for themselves.
Goodness, it must be, that's quite a rough terrain out there, though. Where do people stay when they go out there to look at that thing?
There are several hotels not too far from the boat, and they certainly don't come near our standards of motels and hotels here in the States. The water doesn't work usually and all of this, but there are some hotels around.
Okay.
I call them no-star hotels.
No-star.
But it beats camping out.
Well, I guess the Israelites, they didn't have hotels at all. I guess they were less than no stars out there. Tell me, there was a crack that went down the center of the boat, and it said that you knew then the depth of it. And did the depth meet up with what was in the Bible?
Well, when a boat goes through what Noah's Ark did, first of all, the sides fall out. This is called splaying. And there's a lot of boat burials and things, say in England, for example, the Sutton Hoe boat. And so the boat just spreads out like this, the top comes down. And so while the original Ark was 51.5 feet from bottom to top, this is about 28 feet at this point in time. But we have found remnants of all three decks on the boat. And what we have done in some cases here is assume, that there was some symmetrical relationships in these decks. Like the stalls, we find them in the back and we find them in the front. And so based on this, we have constructed a model, and there's not this much, shall we say, this much of the boat is not out there in this condition. Okay. It's there, but it's kind of fallen in and compressed.
How long is it? I mean, in the Bible now it talks about how long it is, but it's based on what? The cubit?
Right. It says 300 cubits. Now,
how long is the cubit? I mean,
the cubit that Moses was talking about when he wrote the book of Genesis is the Royal Egyptian cubit, 20.6 inches.
Okay.
And that is the cubit that was used when he constructed the Ark of the Covenant and the other furnishings for the tabernacle of the congregation. So in one of the prophecies, it talks about the cubit of the sanctuary being a different one than the normal Israeli cubit of that time.
Okay, and how long then was what you found?
515 feet.
Which would be absolutely right.
Exactly right.
Exactly
yes.
right. Okay. And it's quite a bit wider. I think it said in the Bible by those cubits it was like 85 feet wide.
87.
Should have been.
Right.
Okay. But it's how wide?
It's fallen out, and it's about 128 to 38 feet along the mid portion. Now the front end got covered with lava and then a mud flow before it had time to splay a great deal. So that is quite well preserved out there, and this is what we hope to excavate first when we get started excavating.
Okay, and it's all petrified, isn't it? That must be real expensive to try to get out there and dig through.
It's you have to work with these things carefully. If your audience would like to read something that is similar to this, if they would go to the library and get a book on the Sutton Hoe, S-U-T-T-O-N, and then H-O, funeral boat. The remains of the Ark are a great deal similar to that. And when you excavate these things, a lot of times you can't just dig a trench across it like you do a normal tell or a normal archaeological site, because this is much more fragile than, say, for example, stone buildings. that are associated with civilizations in the Middle East.
How long has it been sitting out there?
About 4,700 years.